Actually, what this debate comes down to is a point of balance. If we are implementing these measures to try and improve housing stock, then we are doing the wrong thing. Because over the last 3 years, what we have successfully worked together across House, across the parties, has been to try and change the law around short-term lets. And we've done that in quite an effective manner. From changing the business rate loophole to meaning that there's an actual number of days that houses have to be let for, to changing the council tax rates to 200% on empty and second homes, to looking at how neighbourhood plans can take into account the amount of second homes when new houses are built, to the consultation that has been mentioned time and time again. There is a large body of legislation that isn't just being promised, but is actually being delivered already in legislation and in the forthcoming legislation that is currently in the House of Lords. So it's not correct to say that nothing is being done and that we're sitting here or standing here again 2 years on and that nothing has changed. A great deal has changed. But the question is what is the intent? What are we trying to do? Because if we are asking for more houses, then we need to build more houses. And changing the rules around short-term let is not going to deliver that. So we have to have that consideration in mind when taking this debate. Now, the honourable gentleman for Westmoreland made the absolutely correct point about how important tourism is to his economy, and it is the same across Devon and Cornwall, as he well knows, and of course across Strangford. And it is 3% of our economy will be based around tourism and hospitality. And we understand that need to be able to attract people to our areas, to make sure that we can attract the visitor economy and to find the employees to be able to work in it as well. In terms of the numbers within Devon, there are 13,363 second homes, which is 11% up from last year. And within my own constituency of Totnes and South Devon, there are 3,454 Airbnb lets. Madam Chair, if you were to take out your phone right now and look at Rightmove for a long-term rental property, you would only find 34 properties at unaffordable levels. This is the challenge that people have within my constituency, is being able to be a welcoming area for second homes, but also to be able to find places to live and work. And day in, day out, my inbox is filled with teachers, doctors, lawyers, nurses, people who want to live and work in the area, but who struggle to get onto the housing market, either to buy or to rent. And so we have to have some consideration about what these measures will be that can encourage more people to actually offer up housing for the long-term rental market. Now, it's interesting that we're having the conversation around Section 21, and there's a debate this afternoon on this very subject about what we do on leaseholder reforms. We have to have measures to encourage long-term landlords who will put their properties into the market and make them available for people to be able to rent. Because right now, across our respective constituencies, and we're all high tourist destination areas, I would imagine, we do not see many of the houses that are being put up for rent put into that long-term market. So consideration of how we do that has to be at the forefront of our minds with the next pieces of legislation that we're going to bring forward. And I have to say, it does start with unintended consequences. We're sent to this place to think about how we can improve the situation. And I suspect that is exactly what George Osborne thought in 2015 when he changed the change in tax relief on mortgage interest payments. Because that has completely disincentivized the long-term rental market and made it completely in favour of the short-term rental market. When you can get 3 or 4 or in some cases 5 times more rent from Airbnb than you can from a long-term rental market, what is the point? And so we have to now think about what are we doing today and in the forthcoming legislation, which I'm afraid I will give due warning to the Minister, a great many of us will want to be shaping it so that we can find that balance that supports the rights of tenants, supports the rights of landlords, and encourages a fair system that can allow both sides to have proper representation in the law. Because if we get this wrong, it is going to be incredibly difficult for us to either support the short-term letting markets that are so important to our visitor economy, or to support the long-term market that we want to see to be able to welcome perhaps the digital nomads that have been referenced, or to encourage people to come and live and work in different parts of the country. The last point I'd just like to make in this area is that a lot of conversation has been made around farming and diversification. Our farmers have been asked, because we are no longer in the Common Agricultural Policy, through ELMS, to look at how we can diversify. And they are time and time again hampered from change of use properties, and we must make it easier for them. It's no good taking away their subsidies and then changing the system and saying it's this difficult to apply for planning permission. And time again, farmers and rural businesses are faced with huge costs from organisations like Natural England, who are levying these big costs on them so they can't diversify. If we want to improve housing stock, encourage landlords to have long-term rental properties, encourage primary residency building, which is already viewed in the neighbourhood plans, encourage the ability to diversify in rural landscapes. And if we get that right, we can have that perfect balance between short-term lets, long-term lets, affordable properties, because in the end, this all boils down to supply. Thank you, Madam Chair.